Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is GI Joburg. It's episode 286. My name is Steve, and today we have a backlog of cartoons, comic books, and lasers to talk about. But you don't know what. You don't have to listen to me monologuing all about it. You can have the company of two other South African GI Joe fans. The first of which is Paul Upshaw.
I'm supposed to be popping up. Hold on. There we go. Hey, everybody. I'll be the other voice today in your head.
Since we had a rocky start, both of us, man. I stumbled on my intro, and I don't know what happened. Did the cat jump? Wait, touchy subject. No cat, right?
Yeah, but actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I've got a cat that's visiting us at the moment. It's just randomly
Ooh.
rocking up in our house and chilling here. He's very cool. His name is Phantom, or we call him Phantom. So, yeah. But
Your name is Paul. My name is Steve. But the coolest
Who's
cat
the other guy?
of the GI Joburg cabal would be none other than the loving scoopful. It's Robert. Hey, Robbie.
It's me. I'm
Rob,
back at
Rob,
it
Rob.
again. Here I am.
Please add some polish to these amateurs that have started this podcast
Oh
off.
my goodness, 286. We're talking lasers.
Here he
Hell
is.
yeah, we're talking
Doo-doo,
cartoons.
doo-doo. Rob
Issue
being like a
Number
Robo-Cane.
3. We're talking comics. Red Rocket's Glare. Hell yeah.
Oh, shit,
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
The
Forgot
classic
about Red
Sunbow.
Rocket's Glare.
You
Part
forgot
two.
about Red Rocket's Glare? My goodness.
I feel like we've done it already because
I
we were
know.
meant
It's
to do
been
this
somewhat
podcast
delayed.
Such a
sooner.
But
yeah.
on the menu for today's podcast, we have issue 297 of the IDW GI Joburg comic book run. We have issue 3 of the Marvel comic book run, the Trojan Gambit. We have episode 2 of GI Joe Renegades entitled The Descent Part 2. And we have from the classic Sunbow series, Red Rocket's Glare. So jam-packed,
297.
guys. Oh dear.
Are you sure about that? It's not 298. We've done issue 300 with Bart and Jim. We've done issue 299 with Troy. We've done 298 with nobody that I know of. Unless I made a mistake.
I'm skipping ahead because I want to get through the IDW stuff faster. Though our crazy idea of reading from issue 1 up and issue 300 down, it's going to take us about 6 years to get to the middle, I think, at this rate. Of like 2 comic books a month.
We can
so
we can do
1,
speed
2,
rounds.
skip a few, 99, 100.
No, we can just speed rounds, like story arcs maybe.
We can give them honorable mentions.
Here's a novel idea. Rob, you can just tell us about 298 since you're the only one who seems to have read it.
Tell us.
You can tell me about 297 because you guys seem to have read it.
Okay. Well, we don't have to crack into the media just yet, fellas, because I feel like we've had to sideline our new shit section for several weeks now because we've just had a jam-packed agenda. And that means I have a backlog of toys and anecdotes to tell the both of you and the listeners. Firstly,
Same.
I have something I'd like to get off my chest. I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
I have transitioned to the other side, as it were. I'm doing a lot of buying on Facebook Marketplace, right? A lot of secondhand toys for my boy because he don't care. He doesn't like packaging anyway. And he's getting some cool stuff as a result. So and gargantuan playsets and things that otherwise would be cost prohibitive.
Now you got the Turtles one.
There's several Turtles playsets that are always in rotation.
The giant sewer one.
The 2012 one is always omnipresent because that thing takes up so much space that I think parents are eager to get rid of it. But yeah, that relates to my story. I didn't, just to kind of put a pin in the anticipation. I feel dirty, guys. I feel like I'm buying up kids' toys sometimes without them even knowing about it. Now, there are 2 types of sellers on Marketplace when it comes to parents. You got the ones who desperately want you to bring cash to the meetup because it's going to go straight into the kid's hand. Sometimes even the kid is the one who meets me at the door, hands over the
What,
toys.
cash or the toy?
Well, cash for toy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I'm just
I
making
I
sure.
bring my wallets with some some sheaths of paper or plastic as it is in
some
Australia.
Varswater. Yeah, lekker.
And the child meets me at the door, and mom prods him a little bit, and he's like, "Here you go," and I'm like, "There you go,
Give it
young
up.
man." And those are my favorite kind of meetups because you know that the kid is getting money for whatever they want, a bike or a video game or I don't know, cigarettes.
Porn. OnlyFans account that he likes.
But on one occasion, I arrived during the day, and it was evident that mommy was alone at home. Timmy was at school still, and we concentrated on the things that had been listed on Marketplace. And then she was like, "Come upstairs. There's something I want to show you."
Uh-oh.
So I followed her, a strange woman in a strange house,
In a
upstairs
strange land.
to yeah,
A very strange children's bedroom.
to her boy's bedroom, and she was like, "Yeah, just whatever you want. We can strike up a deal." And I was like, I don't know if I feel comfortable about this. Like, this kid clearly has no idea that while he's at school, his mom is basically selling out his toy collection from his bedroom out from under him. Like,
Bitch.
and she was like, "No, he's not going to notice. He's got 3 Lightning McQueens. You can take 2 of them. He'll still have
What
the
a
one." I'm like,
monster!
so I don't know. Ethically, what do you do? I mean, obviously, the parent is the guardian, and what they say goes. But we have so many friends who tell the sad story of like, "Yeah, I got rid of my Joe collection for like cents on the dollar as a child because I wanted extra pocket money," or the kind of tales of regret. And not everyone becomes a toy collecting freak like us and our audience. Hello, freaks. But I don't know. Should I feel bad about having taken a few extras from this kid's personal collection?
Listen, his cocaine habit is his parents' problem later.
Yeah, because toy money from your scrappy secondhand playthings is really going to get you a couple of bags.
No. I'm not talking. No. It's not that at all. It's the trauma. This kid's gonna go home. He's gonna see that his toys are missing,
wow.
and his parents are gonna gaslight him, man. They're gonna be like, "Oh no, like, didn't you
You
only
never had
have
those
one?
toys."
You only had one. Yeah, you broke it." They're gonna gaslight the shit out of this kid. This kid's gonna hit his teenage years. He's not gonna know right from wrong, real from fake, and he's just gonna go down a dark path of cocaine and hookers, man.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul
It
is
makes me feel
definitely not
much
trying
better.
to make you feel any better.
But you're probably not half wrong. Weird double negatives there. But yeah. So absolutely, man. The parents will play the game of like, "Yeah, no, you lost that one, remember? Hey." I mean, that's a familiar story as well. So all of a sudden you're questioning your sanity.
Yep.
Oh man.
Gaslighting.
Perhaps best not to overthink it. Anyways,
Come join me
shall
on
we?
my pseudopsychology channel.
Well, okay, that's my story of
How
the
does
week,
that
I
make you
guess.
feel, Berg?
Rob,
Not that I
any
think he's going
fun
to
new
go
things?
very well. I just want to say, I don't think like his Buzz Lightyear collection is going to go very far, is it? I mean, there isn't a lot of toys in the Toy Story, toy series that you can be like, "Oh wow, I got all the Toy Story toys." I mean, I really don't think that's gonna, that's gonna light a fire in him for the rest of his life. If they were GI Joes or like Turtles, I'd be really upset about this. But like, I don't know. It's a difficult one. I mean, yes, the toys, the parents bought the toys, but the toys should belong to the kid. It should be his choice in the end, or her choice, or whatever.
Wow.
New stuff. I've not gotten anything new, unfortunately. I'm still holding the line, as it were.
Hold that line.
But I've had a pretty decent couple of weeks. I was a little sick for a while. I've recovered. I'm alive and well. yeah, and I keep thinking like next week is the week that we close and we're gonna move to the new location.
Oh,
The
shame, Rob.
anticipation is killing you.
And then people keep telling me like, no, Rob, it's at the end of April. It's the end of April. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, it's
Oh,
not
shame,
April yet,
man.
and it's March still.
Yeah, the
So
anxiety is real, bro.
yeah, for sure. But I'm like super excited. Like I'm very interested to see how things work out in a new place. So although I don't have any new stuff, I will have a new place to be in. So that should be a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Hell yeah.
Cool, man.
Paul, any new
I
Motu?
got some news. No, no new Motu, but I did get something kind of cool.
Ooh.
And it's kind of a surprising purchase for me. So you guys are expecting, obviously, you're expecting me to get
Cars.
some Motu. You're expecting me to get a Hot Wheels toy here and there, but you're
Yeah.
not expecting me to get one of these figures
Barbie.
from a popular space opera known as Star Wars. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I got myself a Black Series Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was living at the Nexus with a handful of other Star Wars figures, the Mandalorian in Beskar armor, and an elite trooper, which is not the stormtrooper, but kind of the clone trooper, the black clone trooper, and then there was a Jawa, and there were the credits versions and whatever. Anyway,
Isn't that
I
a
kept
Death
walking
Trooper?
past. I think it could be. No, it's not a Death Trooper. I would love a Death Trooper. I would have bought that up. And I kept checking out this Bo-Katan. I kept walking past it and being like, wow, I actually really dig that figure. And I really like the face sculpt and I like Christy Sackhoff. And so I'm like, cool, maybe I'll get it. I don't know.
Katie
And then
Sackhoff?
Katie Sackhoff. Thank you, Steven. Shit, my brain.
You're welcome.
I love her so much. I don't know her name.
Starbuck.
Well, I know Bo-Katan, right? That's what's important. Anyway, cue the first episode or the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian on Disney
Season
Plus of season 3. That's correct. That I'd been watching, or that I just watched by the time that I bought this toy, and I was, the feedback loop. The circle is now complete. I've seen it on TV. I saw it in the shop. It is cheap as chips for me, so I bought it. And I got to say, I'm very, very pleased with this toy. I love the face sculpt. I'm just going to change the image here for the guys watching the YouTube. Yeah, man.
These shots are so professional.
They're very cool. And,
well done, Paul. Well done.
Yeah. I got the BBTS shots, man.
Yeah,
guys,
I was about to say, where did you get an infinity wall for your studio?
So cool.
Well, I've got one of those actually,
You do.
incidentally, but but I was just too lazy to shoot my own footage, my own photos for this. Anyway, guys, this is a cool toy. I really dig it. I want to do like an off-the-cuff review, but I'm actually curious from the Berg Force and the people in the comments when you watch this on YouTube and in Podbean or whatever. Would you guys like to hear my opinions on a Black Series Star Wars figure, seeing as I've been doing some classified Joes? Because there are definitely some points about the Black Series that I feel hit really, really like high standards that I wish translated to classified, and I'd love to just talk about that in a video. And I would, of course, like the Berg Force's blessing on it, just to see if it's something you would dig. Anyway,
I would like to hear right now your opinion, or at least your first blushings of your opinion on Mando Series 3.
Oh, I'm loving it. I'm really digging it. Yeah, like I know that a lot of people probably got upset with that one episode where it's all about the clone specialist.
No
dude,
spoilers,
actually,
please.
Okay. Well, anyway, I enjoyed that episode. That was really great. I've enjoyed it. I think what I've been thinking about Mando is that it gets me excited for the next episode. I'm always like hungry for the next one, and I enjoy the characters, and I enjoy the cinematography in those episodes has been incredible.
Do you enjoy the fact that the Mandalorian enclave seemed to be like a kids' party hopped up on sugar, where everyone's just wrestling in the garden all the time until they get called in for meals or whatever, or giant creature attacks them? No, it's bizarre. I think Bo-Katan is actually the shining light of that series at the moment.
Oh yeah,
I'm really, really losing my patience with the perennial crutch that is Grogu. Like, they keep needing to find him things to do and keep needing to find reasons for him to stick around. But I'm like, oh, jeez. The series
Yeah.
would be stronger without him. Anyway, it is what it is, guys. They've painted themselves into a corner by having this enormously popular plushie.
Yeah,
You just sell
doing
them
its thing.
toys. Mm-hmm.
But
Anyway.
I mean, there are worse things than Grogu on screen, and I've been enjoying that. And
Oh.
no, I mean, Grogu's great. I like Grogu, but I mean, we've had worse things take up that role, in Star Wars. I'm on a bit of a Star Wars kick actually, and I'm doing my best to kind of resist buying more Star Wars figures because I really love this Bo-Katan. That much I will say on the air right now, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I'm going to go and collect Star Wars figures now. It was just a curiosity, and it was cheap enough, and I'm just very happy with my purchase. I had no buyer's remorse or anything, so that was great. It also got me to watch episode 9 again because somebody was like, what were my thoughts on episode 9? Because I had this toy in my hand, and here's a bit of the anecdotal side of the story. They're like, what did you think of episode 9? And, my knee-jerk reaction was, well, it's shit. And then I actually gave it some thought. I'm like, actually, I can't remember how that movie ended. And I thought maybe it's just because, I'm 39 years old and I've got like old man brain or something going on. And I watched it again yesterday, actually, last night while I was doing some work. And yeah, I saw the ending, but I'm not entirely sure what I saw. So I still don't know how that film ended. I don't know. It's weird PTSD. I don't know. This is bullshit. Anyway, I did this cool event this weekend. We went to the Japanese Cultural Festival. And I got to meet the Japanese ambassador to South Africa, and that was very, very cool. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that goes down with that. Anyway, not that exciting, but what had to happen for me to be involved there was I had to go to Pretoria, which is like a good hour's drive away from where I stay in Joburg. And I went to a mall I very seldom frequent. I think it's the second time I've ever been to that mall, and so naturally my senses managed to find the toy kingdom, and I got Arachnia because Steve, I think you got Arachnia as well, and I really like this toy, and I kept kicking myself for not buying it because it disappeared out of all of the toy stores up here in Joburg. Or down here, up here, in the middle here in Joburg.
Well, you've got the Siege one, and I've got Kingdom Black Arachnia.
Yeah, I got the Kingdom one, yeah.
Transmetals one.
Ew. So anyway, I saw this, and I was like, damn, I should have grabbed it. And it goes for 299 Rand, so that's like fuck all. It was on special. So I had to get it. And it's really charming. It's a cool... It freaks the shit out of Celia, which is awesome. Because it's nasty looking in spider mode, but she was quite fascinated by the boobs on it. It's quite a fun feature. The boobs actually flip up. It's very strange for the transformation. Whoa. Yeah, guys, this is a great toy. It's cool that it goes with my Waspinator. I'm very happy with this. I've enjoyed both of these very weird, very unusual Transformers figures that I've recently purchased. That being Waspinator and Arachnia. And I did, however, walk into a CNA of all places. So our South African listeners and you gentlemen, you guys know CNA is not necessarily a toy toytopia. But this was weird. I walked into CNA the other day for the first time, and it must have been months. And they got a whole bunch of toys there that are like obviously runoffs. No, nothing that cool. Nothing that cool, but it's a lot of toy runoffs and things like that. They actually had this Arachnia there as well for 600 Rand. They also had the Slug that I was looking for. They had Slug, and I was like, Slag. Oh, cool.
Come on, man.
Slag, yeah. But when I say Slug, I am referring to the fact that it's the Studio Series 86 version.
The Triceratops Dinobot, everyone.
So
this
happy.
is a GI Joe podcast, of course.
Yes, I know. I was so happy about that. I was like, yeah, this is amazing. I turned the box around. It's 2,000 Rand. I was like, fuck that.
Wow.
I put that right down. Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah, there's a whole controversy behind that toy in South Africa. So on Takealot, Takealot had this ad where they had that toy for 699 Rand. So I click on the ad, I go to Takealot, I add it to my cart, I complete the purchase. I get an email, because when you do an online purchase, they send you an email to say your order's been confirmed and it will be tracked and this is when it's coming, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is cool. Okay, sweet. So where's this email now? Because I haven't seen it. And later on in the evening, they send me an email. They're like, I'm sorry, but we can't, this product has the wrong price listed. So I'm like, well, Consumer Protection Act, bitch, you know?
Mhm.
And she's like, no, it's a huge mistake. And they'll follow up and they'll get back to me. And I'm like, okay, no worries. I'm patient. Anyway, I put this down on a toy forum I know. And I'm just like, hey, has anybody else had issues getting slug/slag on Take-A-Lot for 699 Rand. Well, let me tell you, there is quite the conspiracy with this bloody toy. Some guys put it in their cart and it magically went up to 1,500 Rand. Some guys ordered it, then they got the wrong toy. It's this whole thing. So yeah,
Somebody
it seems
screwed
like
up big time.
big time. So it looks like I won't be getting 86 Studio Series Slug anytime soon until I see it wasting away in some price cutters toy shop for like $500.
I'll keep my eyes peeled on Facebook Marketplace and rip it from some child's hand in the near future.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank
yeah.
you. That's the privilege of being an adult. Anyway, guys,
It'll be all of about
mouthed,
$10 by that stage. Oh,
I've mouthed
jeez.
off enough about my new purchases and toy experiences for the last. I think that covers about 3 months of toy
I
purchases
am
for me.
curious,
Yeah.
however, what did Cecilia? What was her exact comment on Black Arachnia's breasts?
She was just like, check the boobs on that thing.
Well, it's animation accurate. I mean, she's
Yeah.
voluptuous in that ridiculous like CG, early CG boobs. I feel like Tomb Raider was being channeled there, polygons and all. But anyways, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, very buxom toy. I don't know how I feel about my Transformers having such pronounced breastises. But yeah, guys, it's time to clear the backlog. I got I don't know if you remember, but I got a whole bunch of Micro Machine Micro City playsets.
Yes.
But mixed into that lot was 2 Transformers Micromaster battle stations. So I got finally a Transformer to go with it. His name's Red Hot. He was later renamed Red Heat. But I'd say he's probably the coolest G1 Micromaster ever produced. He's a fire truck with an actual swiveling and folding ladder and water cannon, which is awesome. And he goes very nicely with Hot House, which is the Autobot fire station, battle station. Not to be confused with the infamous Sex Palace in Cape Town of the same name. Do you know it, Rob?
I don't.
You don't know the Hot House? Well,
No, I don't.
good for you, pal. Good for you.
I'm a good lad.
And then yeah, he transforms into a very neat little robot. I love how much suspension of disbelief, not even suspension of disbelief, just like invested backstory each of these guys got. They are basic toys. They are beyond basic. They're essentially micro machines that can stand up on their tails and have faces and arms. But
And they're awesome.
they had a tech spec, a sort of a team tech spec, but each one of them had their own motto. So it gave you insight into each of their characters, which awesome. Anyways,
Show me them titties.
I do need to rinse through this because there are a few things. Then I also got a big boa. Local Australian seller was selling it, and it had both of its boxing gloves and the hose, and the Cobra symbols on the gloves were in fine condition. So I pulled the trigger because the only big boa I have has no crotch because it was just thrown in with a trade, just gratis, I guess, just sort of
little
extra.
boa.
Yeah, no boa. Yeah. Anyway, so I finally have a big boa, and I know you guys. I'm playing catch up because I know Rob, you got big boa at Kokomo Toys.
Kokomo Toys, yep.
Amazing. What drew
Fantastic
you to
version.
that figure?
I think, well, I mean, I've always liked Rocky, and I like boxing. I've always enjoyed Rocky boxing movies, and I just thought he was a unique character to get. He's probably the closest to, that I would on purpose get a Dreadnought. Like, I know he's no Dreadnought, but he feels close to the Dreadnoughts because he's like a punchy dude and he doesn't have actual guns and shit. I think I got him
Okay.
because he was fairly cheap, and he was in really good condition as well. And I don't have many Cobra higher ups, or like name characters, I think. So I wanted to have someone who had a name, who was a person, an individual in the Cobra ranks. And he was right there, and he looked fantastic.
He's an interesting named individual to kind of home in on, considering I don't know if you have a Cobra Commander.
I don't own a Cobra Commander. Modern era. I think I own
Oh
one.
yeah, of course. Yeah, you've got
Of
the
course.
mirror face like retaliation Cobra Commander, like the good one,
Yes.
the one that people are comparing to the higher toys,
Oh
the
wow.
forthcoming
The
higher
High
toys.
Toys one looks really good.
Oh, doesn't it just? I really like the
Yeah.
fact that they have embossed the Cobra logo on the chest. That kind of puts them a cut above the rest. Like that's something that I has never been done before, to my knowledge, and it's
Can't rub that off.
amazing. Yeah, exactly. Try as you might, you're gonna need sandpaper to take that one off. All right, so let's move on to some more toys. I'm gonna go solo
Ooh,
and
oh
put my face
wow.
on camera.
Go there.
I got
Ooh.
Sonar Sensor Batman from the Batman Forever line because we were at the vintage toy store again, and Elliot was like, "Do do do do," because he doesn't say Batman. He sings the first few bars of the Tim Burton, not Tim Burton. It is the Tim Burton, but
I
the
love
Danny
this kid.
Elfman, Batman
song.
theme.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so I was
I
like,
mean, we know.
that is a Batman Forever Batman. I do not have a Val Kilmer Batman at all.
The
And
little thing on the shoulder pops up. Yeah.
there's a little bit of a likeness there. I mean, that jawline does look
That
like
jawline
Kilmer's.
does look like him for sure. And also it's a muted, the colors are very much like a Batman outfit. It's
Yes,
not
yeah,
like
it's
crazy
tasteful.
insane colors.
I've got the Batman Forever Batmobile, and I've never had a Kilmer Batman, so it was meant to be. So I thank you, Elliot, for pushing me over the edge on this guy. He has a neat feature. His sonar sensor springs up, still
I
works.
had that.
Very nice.
Great.
Rob had the one that had the crazy like goggles that kind of
The
snap
yellow
in.
goggles.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I had that
remember
too.
that well. Neat figure. Can't wait to reunite him with my Batman Forever Batmobile, which is obviously still in Cape Town. Then I found on Facebook Marketplace a
Oh.
GI Joe vehicle lot going for 15 Australian dollars. That's about 170 South African rand. That's
Oh my
like
God.
12 US.
That's
3
like
GI Joe vehicles
lunch.
and a tub of the world's cheapest army men, like plastic army men. Like literally, like you can take one finger and like bend them in half. They are wafer thin. So
Ugh.
I don't know if that's going to be too much fun for young Elliot. Amongst the
No.
vehicle lot, there was one vehicle that I'm not going to disclose online because it's going to be destined for a member of GI Joburg. But this is the cleanest
Oh.
septic tank I've ever held since I bought mine fresh in like 1993.
Wow.
This
I can
is...
tell you haven't seen mine.
Oh, is yours clean too? Well, I think
Super
this thing
clean.
was a bath toy because there's not
Yeah.
a single shred, not a single mote of dust on it. It is
Amazing. And it's not painted gray
blinding.
either.
Yes, I took a Sharpie to my original because when I first discovered that this was in fact based on the Hiss tank mold, and I saw pictures of this black tank, it was in a comic book ad for like mail-in toys. It blew my mind. I was like, wow, okay, it looks good in black. Let me just take a Sharpie and make this orange monstrosity go away. But yeah, it's nice to have one in its former glory because, you know, if you've got a 90s display going, you don't get anything more blinding, and particularly under a black light than this behemoth.
So,
it'll look cool under black light.
dude,
Then-
that's why I got one, man. It's so cyber. Yeah.
Nice. Then the topic that I want to move us on to comes at the courtesy of the Persuader.
Waiter.
Ooh.
Yes, the 1987 GI Joe Persuader, a laser tank, something that would have perhaps found a more
Laser.
comfortable home with the Battle Force 2000. It was a regular release anyway, and there's a story behind that. On the 3D Joe's webpage, they've got an account by Guy Cassidy who designed it and also put his name on one of the stickers. Sneaky.
Clever.
got that one past Hasbro legal. They must have been sleeping on the job. Anyway, the Persuader was, at least the design of it was destined to be a Cobra vehicle. And with all these swoopy, very serpent-like lines.
Serpentine.
Thank you, Paul.
Hey.
Who's the
Sorry.
wordsmith today? It does actually feel very Cobra. Imagine this in Cobra blue or black or red, if you so desire. So, I mean, it's a bit of an identity crisis, even in the design. I've never liked it as a result, but at an average of $5 per vehicle, I wasn't going to say no. In fact, this was the linchpin of the lot. This is the one that I wanted the most. And I wanted to talk to you. It has a hidden feature. I did not know that the bumper has some spring to it. It's not an actual spring inside. It's really just a looped piece of plastic.
Like a wishbone type thing.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
sort
You
of
can
a
ram it
bit
into
of-
walls.
Bit of resistance there. But also using sort of flexing plastic, the wheels have a little bit of suspension. Like the back
like a
three,
bogies in a weird way.
the back
That's
three are on a
cool.
rocker, and the front two are on a rocker.
That's so cool. It's Bo-Kataning.
I feel like you should really loop some track over these wheels.
I could just see Extensive Enterprises Joe.
It just doesn't
RCing
look
that thing up.
It doesn't look finished being on wheels. And why would you have 10 wheels anyway? Like, that just feels cumbersome. in a
Because
way.
12 are too expensive.
I think 4 wheels make sense because you have 2 turnable sets. You know, 4 in the
Yeah.
front, 4 in the back. You've seen that in like modern amphibious craft and armored personnel carriers, but 10, weird.
Nice.
I want to talk to you about the heat wave cannon. So this, I think, is more of an artillery weapon. It sort of stays behind the lines, or
Oh,
you know,
for
it's not the tip of the spear. This isn't supposed to be in the armored charge. This is a long range attack
Back
vehicle,
with the Rolling Thunder.
albeit
Yeah, it
a
doesn't
sort of a
seem to have
line of
any-
sight.
And it doesn't seem to have any anti-personnel stuff built into it. So it's definitely like a
does.
rear. Oh, does it?
Well, it's got
Oh.
a
Little missiles.
smaller laser. I don't have that.
You don't have all the missiles? No missiles?
all the missiles. No,
Oh.
boo, shame.
Okay, well,
Dudes.
your version can't protect itself.
It was in a lot for $15. I'm not saying that, but and I think it looks better clean. I kind of, you know, the urge in GI Joe design to slap missiles over every unoccupied surface sometimes looks a little bit tasteless. And Santara reminds us that the missiles on the Persuader are very loose and annoying.
Interesting.
Absolutely. And it is nice that my gun stays in position, but there might be some black magic
agrees.
at help there. Really?
I'm just assuming so.
like hell we have time for any of that shenanigan. Yeah,
Yeah,
guys.
no Elliot Mark II anytime soon. Anyway, moving right along.
Child equals end of sex life. It's like we've become very biblical. It's like for procreation only. Anyway, that's a little too much insight into my personal life.
Sorry, Steve.
All right, so lasers in GI Joe, guys. Where do you see them? Are they something that every Joe has access to and uses? Is it something that only a handful use? And if so, why? What are their drawbacks? Do they need massive like power requirements? Are each of them kind of carrying this very sophisticated battery pack? Or are they miniaturized? Like, can you have basically put your XMLR on charge, like a charging station inside a vehicle between uses? And if so, how much power does a portable battery charge give you? I mean, how many shots are you going to get at like enough intensity to kill at like, I don't know, 200 meters?
Wow.
Think
I
about
feel like
it.
I mean, as you were like asking, I'm thinking, no, I thought about it because in the Trojan Gambit, there is a cool moment with a laser.
Oh.
And it kind of got me thinking, like, wow, there's a lot of like smart consideration in that issue of the comic book with regards to the laser and how dangerous they are and all that. And I kind of feel like the XMLR is kind of maybe not as powerful as, Grand Slam's laser. I hope I'm getting the right Joe there. So I kind of feel like, they're all trained with them, with the XLMR. I feel like that's kind of where the Joes are at. They're trained with those. But the more sophisticated stuff that like sci-fi uses, I don't feel like they're trained with those, because that's like a very powerful weapon.
Just for reference of anyone who's not familiar with the nomenclature, the XMLR is the rifle that Snow Job canonically came with. But it then became the template for the Sunbow, like ubiquitous GI Joe rifle. Everyone had Snow Job's gun because it, more than anything else, was designated as a laser gun, I think. Also, I imagine for animation, it had a cleaner profile. You didn't have to have a magazine line up with the angle of the gun itself. Like it's a barrel, it's a foregrip. It's very much just a rifle.
It's a laser in the toy line, and it's a laser in the cartoon, which is cool as well. So
yes, I do appreciate that. Yeah.
And then also just to like expand on that, like, I mean, we're just thinking of GI Joe, but like there are Cobra that also carry laser weapons. Well, okay, this is an interesting subject. I kind of feel like Zartan's gun is a bit of a laser, just because of its styling. So I imagine he has some kind of battery in his backpack or something for that gun, and that it is only like a 5 or 6 shot kind of thing.
Ooh, as little as that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lasers can be, when you have to shoot at that intensity, I imagine that they chow a lot of battery life. I mean, a Walkman, well, should I say a Discman, those things on battery life used to last for 6 hours, and that was a very low light emitting laser. So can you imagine something that's actually designed to pierce flesh or armor or whatever?
That is a very good analogy. Like I didn't think about the laser inside a Discman. So you can't exactly weaponize that. I mean, but yeah,
I'm gonna go blind.
If you extrapolate how much more juice you'd need to get a lethal blast. Yeah, no, these are very sophisticated batteries, and yeah, you're absolutely right. Maybe you only got 5 or 6 shots, and then if you push that to its furthest, and you've got something like the Persuader, which has a 10 megawatt heat wave cannon. It's designed for anti-armor, but I think its shining use would probably be to knock targets out of the air. Because with a laser weapon, you're basically firing line of sight. If you can see it, you can instantaneously burn it. So, you could lock onto targets that are like visible above you a lot easier than you could lock onto targets that are obscured by terrain or like beyond the curvature of the earth, beyond the horizon line. So I think this should be your air support, your mobile anti-air tank vehicle.
Well, in Ace Combat, you can get a dedicated kind of laser weapon that you pop on the front of certain aircraft. And it's really, really, really powerful, but you do have to get used to using it because you can't lock on. It's totally line of sight. But that thing is devastating. I mean, it is super, super powerful. You don't have to keep it on a bird for too long before it pops. Let's put it that way. So I can see that. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like on an aircraft.
On a bird.
When you see them, like the thing is with that weapon, you don't even engage with somebody close range. You kind of get a feel for its range. I think it does about 3,000 meters.
Aircrafts are relatively frail things when it comes down to it. It doesn't take a lot of firepower to knock them out of the sky. But using the Persuader against armored targets, does that mean you have to kind of have it locked on to the same spot for, I don't know, 10 seconds, 15 seconds? Longer.
You would have to do that for it to.
It's probably a very stealthy weapon though. Like it doesn't have a bang and it doesn't give off, well, it would give off smoke at the point at which it's burning, but like if you are a tank that's kind of, I don't know, half buried in the sand, like in a hull down position, and the Persuader spotted you and it starts burning away at you, you might not know it's on you until it's too late. So like the Persuader,
Yeah.
if it's got to jump on you, is a very powerful weapon. But to try and fight moving targets, I think we're going to see the limitations of the Persuader. Moving targets that have armor, I should say.
And the poor crew, actually.
Well,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
horrible way to go.
death and GI Joe. It's an uncomfortable subject. We got a great question in the comments from Mark van Leeuwen. Yeah, so you're trying to pull it up, Paul. He says Cobra had shooting lasers until the laser viper showed up, and suddenly the laser was only to pinpoint targets. What was that about? I'm gonna kick this over to Rob because I know Paul and I probably have a response prepared.
That is, I'd never actually thought of that. That is really weird. I suppose they kind of realized how powerful lasers could really be. And that actually, at least in a comic book setting, or a real world setting, it could actually be a lot more gruesome. That's probably also why you only have one flamethrower guy or two flamethrower guys, really. Even though the Joes have more than Cobra.
Ice cream soldier.
Well, yeah. I think maybe they kind of realized that lasers weren't the way to go in a more realistic setting. Like in cartoons, you can definitely do lasers. Like you don't have to think about, because it's just beams that shoot out very quickly. They hit their target, you get injured. There's no like excessive damage, that you can kind of like picture. You can tone down lasers very easily, but if you think about lasers too much, it really does get more gruesome than bullet wounds could get. Kind of like boiling people alive and like stripping the costume away, and then the flesh goes away, and it's like
Severing
people
body
don't
parts.
even know. I mean, that's even scarier than like a sniper is a laser sniper.
Yeah.
And
Call
it
of
feels
Duty.
less well, not honorable, but I mean, it's
very non-Geneva Convention.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
so, and that's why, in my opinion, I think lasers, at least in the Joe team, shouldn't be widespread. It should be more a specialist tool or large scale. Where I think, your point of like shooting planes out of the sky is just quite a useful ability for something like the Persuader to have, or it's a good mechanism or a good use for lasers. And yeah, I think also lasers are kind of restricting because yes, they're a very specialized weapon compared to bullets, where if you don't have enough bullets, you can always take them from your enemy depending on what caliber weapons they're using. And also probably it's much cheaper to produce bullets, I'm guessing,
Then battery packs.
than well, maybe it depends
In
on
the
the battery
80s.
pack.
Are they
In the 80s.
rechargeable batteries, or are you discarding batteries
It's
all over the
discarding every
battlefield?
time. It's like you're just dropping it and then popping another one.
I don't know. I quite like my initial idea that, like, particularly the XMLR, which is a self-contained unit, you put it onto a charge port between uses if you are at base or with a
But
mobile
also, that's the thing. Like
charging
when you
station.
run out of laser fire, you run out of laser fire. There is no alternative. Your backup will then always be a bullet-based gun.
Sure.
Because
and you've got to keep lugging your XMLR around because you can't let it fall into Cobra's hands.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I mean,
a
that's
cumbersome
expensive
thing.
equipment.
I see why you mean it's for specialized troops. But let's answer Mark's question.
Yes.
Paul, do you have a solution?
Yeah, well, I have 3.
Cobra had lasers, and then all of a sudden the laser viper shows up, and then it's a thing. Like, ooh.
I got 3 schools of thinking that go into this. The one is to create a departure from Star Wars. I think everything in the 80s was like shooting lasers and stuff, and I think there was this misconception. Maybe there was like a blurring of the lines that Hasbro didn't want to have. Like with Star Wars, like maybe in the beginning they wanted GI Joes to have lasers, even going as far as to pinch some of the sound effects from Star Wars. I don't know if I'm sure you guys have picked that up on some of the shows before. To kind of lull kids into that, and then I think maybe at some point it didn't work for them anymore. The other school of thought is that the GI Joes, the toys, come with real with miniature versions of real guns, of guns that exist in the real world. And these same GI Joes are seen shooting those guns in the cartoon, and then they have lasers coming out of them. And I think there needed to be some kind of like distinction to kind of let kids know that, hey, listen, like guns aren't cool laser shooting toys. They actually shoot bullets, and they're quite dangerous. So maybe that was a school of thought. And then the third thing that I can think of is, well, and that ties into obviously why, where lasers get used in real military application is, for spotting and marking of targets, to create line of sight for airstrikes and that kind of stuff.
Or
So I feel like,
air
yeah,
attack.
yeah. So I feel like that was kind of part of the whole thing. Like Hasbro was trying to then now educate people, because maybe some of the people that had started reading GI Joe in the 80s had grown up a bit more, and they were maybe complaining to Hasbro about this in the comic book or something, saying, hey, like, listen, this is a thing, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, those would be two schools of thinking there. The disassociation with Star Wars, and the disassociation with real weapons being toys. I think those are my two major ones. The third one's kind of fallen.
Gonna go a little bit more cynical than that, and that's the fact that the cartoon did red and blue lasers, and Larry did the comic books and the file cards. So Cobra didn't have a laser trooper or any kind of use of lasers, at least not widespread, up until the arrival of the Laser Viper. But the Laser Viper file card only makes it out to be a target designator for airstrikes and for, I suppose, ordnance attacks. However, Larry himself in issue 130 used Laser Vipers to do like cutting work. They were cutting through the blast doors of the pit. Yeah. So I mean, at high intensity, even Larry's lasers are like essentially scaled up acetylene torches. And we see this as early as issue 3 of GI Joe.
That's correct. Yes, yeah.
From Marvel.
Yeah.
So yes, lasers for offensive purposes, but also lasers for practical cutting purposes. And that kind of then took a giant dump on the presence of lasers as like handheld weapons in Cobra through the cartoon years. There's always this like divide between the cartoon logic and the comic book logic. And typically the comic book logic lines up with the file cards because the same guy was writing them. Right.
I was actually worried that my third point was flimsy, but actually you kind of reached into that a laser also becomes kind of a hand of God weapon as well. It ends up being so much stronger than everything else that exists, so you end up blowing it away. But I don't
build in weaknesses. Like they're pretty like finely tuned devices that can't take too much punishment. That's why you need guys like Flash and Sci-Fi who know how to maintain the equipment as opposed to just shoot it.
Anywho, thanks for the question, Mark.
Love me some laser talk in GI Joe. Next week, sludge.
Ooh.
I'll talk septic tank and what is that all about? But let's do some GI Joe media and stuff. What did we have first on the agenda? I think it was Renegades episode 2. Does anyone have a summary for this episode?
The GI Joes are still on the run, but soon they discover a town overrun. Monsters loose. They gotta clean them up, but nothing's at the end of the road because they're still out there on the run.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, we open with them eulogizing old Ripcord who died in we lost him in the first episode. But they realize they have to go back into Springfield because one of Dr. Mindbender's bio-vipers is on the loose.
Yeah. They can't just leave.
Not only that, the net is closing because first officer, I don't know what warrant officer? I don't know. But Flint has been tasked with bringing Duke and the Renegades in.
Yeah.
And at his side, he's got one of Duke's closest allies on the inside, Lady J.
Ooh, and they're bumping heads from the very start, Lady J and Flint. There's no
Well,
love lost between these people.
absolutely, because Lady J has this secret affiliation, or I don't know, friendship, kinship. There's a better word that I'm stumbling on.
Camaraderie,
Something like that. Sympathy for Duke.
loyalty, sympathy,
Loyalty,
yeah.
that's it. Loyalty to Duke, but of course she's duty bound to support Flint. Kind of. At one point,
Shouldn't have
she kind
parked
of
your car there.
she turns a
Oh,
blind eye
wait.
to the fact that the Renegades steal Flint's Jeep. Ha ha ha.
Shouldn't
And
have left
Flint's
your
like,
keys in the car.
exactly. Guys, I really appreciate this episode because it is Renegades doing. I mean, Paul, the last time we talked about one of these episodes, you were like,
Thank you,
is
Sid.
it Cobra or is it Umbrella Inc. from
Hmm.
oh sorry, the Umbrella Corporation from the Resident Evil
Resident
series.
Evil. Yeah.
Mm.
Because they're into big pharmaceuticals and weapons, and they've got this town that they have a major facility in, and the facility kind of a disaster takes place there, and there are
Resident
things on the
Evil.
loose. Absolutely, and they throw a cordon around this city. Like at one
Yeah,
point, they've got
they
one
can
of
just
those
do whatever they
Cobra
want.
vehicles that are just dropping these laser fields, which are lethal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. Mindbenders traipsing through there to try and track down this bioviper because, as Baroness puts it, like, you dare not unveil this technology to the world without the commanders say so. So he's scared of that. And Baroness wants to nuke the whole town, and Mindbender's like, you sure the commander would like that? So everyone's a little bit gun shy of like
Yeah.
pissing off the commander, which is
Pissing off
pretty
the
cool.
commander, and also,
like that.
I mean, having
Yeah.
to keep things clandestine. It's like, yes, they're an evil organization, but they need to remain unsullied in the eyes of the public.
Yeah.
Like they can definitely do whatever they want as long as no one finds out about it.
I love the reveal of
Like
the
Big
commander
Pharma.
at the end that like he's using deepfake technology to put on this like this very pleasant, kind of pleasant, looks a bit like Dr. Venom to be honest. But this corporate
does.
face that appears in all the commercials for Cobra Enterprises or Cobra. what are
He's
they called?
Jeff Bezos outfit.
Totally. But then, as I say, it's deepfake, I suppose, holography at that point because he's actually still just sitting at his throne with his like half masked face. He does face-to-face communication, but all the other person is seeing is this skin.
Yeah, he's like a VTuber, basically.
Yes, very good. It was VTubing before
Only
that was a thing.
fangs.
So, what did you guys pull from this episode? What did you like? What did you loathe?
Ooh, there's one thing I just want to like put a spotlight on immediately.
Mm.
How frightening and horrifying is it when that guy opens the barn and all those sheep have been like completely emaciated, and they just. And I was like, "Oh my word! Are you trying to get this show cancelled? Because
This is a kid's cartoon.
That's quite vicious imagery."
So to put you guys in the frame, the bioviper draws its strength from siphoning energy off living things. It does the same to like a cornfield, and it grows that way. But it also like feeds off these poor sheep, which then become like really dilapidated corpses, depleted. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they're
kind of
just emaciated.
that's
and
it.
gross.
Husks.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it took
Couldn't
on a great horror turn. I liked what it was doing in that regard. I wish they could push that out further because I've always wanted to see like a Joe Resident Evil take.
Well, they're certainly delivering so far. You know, I mean, they're maybe not pushing the envelope, but they definitely are giving you those kind of like horror vibes.
It could
Well,
be
they're
more
selling-
horrific.
You
Yeah.
could definitely go further with it.
At one point,
But they're
a
selling
boy is
Cobra.
absorbed by the bioviper, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah, and then
"Oh,
nothing
that's it for you, pal."
No,
We're
no.
gonna see this skeleton, like this gloopy skeleton on the inside of the bioviper until it finishes feeding off all his I don't know nutrients, and then just drop that out the back.
But I love, and the reason I bring that up is because it does set a tone. It sets a precedent. Like it says, hey, this is actually what this thing does. It's really gruesome. It informs the viewers. It makes it adds to all of the fear and horror that is Cobra, that is being set up by Mindbender and Baroness's tete-a-tete as well. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of those kind of things that I really like. So that everything that involves making Cobra Commander scary and making Cobra themselves very efficient at being assholes, I really love in this episode. I actually felt it was a little bit of a walk on the wild side for this cartoon, because at that moment I was like, you made this sort of safe for kids, but this is not written for kids. It's kind of how I felt. Yeah, it felt a bit anime. Yeah.
Ditto the interplay between the Joes themselves. Scarlett's still throwing her weight around as the ranking officer, but Duke quickly puts her in her place by saying, we have no rank. We are equal opportunity outlaws now. So, like, you can shut the hell up about constantly rubbing in that you're the officer here. So he's taking back control of the unit, which is, I like the friction. I like the fact that Duke and Scarlett aren't just like old war buddies, big chums. Like, there's more to it than that. And
they're developing.
Yeah, it's good. But as with the good must come the bad. Is there any nitpicks, anything that jarred you guys in this episode?
Yeah, I really wish they would just fix up their background game. No, but like
I started noticing it now. It does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
Your eyes are on the subjects. You don't notice the fact that, like, at one point the background is just like a green bleed into a blue.
Yes. Or like something that resembles a tree from a silhouette level, but not really a tree, and it's weird.
But don't you think a more detailed background would detract from what this show is doing?
I think it would.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
it would.
It's placing the character designs firmly in your face.
It's a nitpick for sure. Like that's what I'm saying. It's a nitpick. I don't feel like it's a really credible critique, or should I say, I don't feel it's a credible criticism on the show. It's just a nitpick. It's a personal, subjective thing from my side. And maybe that's just because I am currently in the trenches doing backgrounds, and I have an art director that is very specific about stuff. So maybe I'm just in specific mode at the moment when it comes to that.
I love vehicle and tech designs on this, like what is later called the Coyote, the GI Joe's principal vehicle. Awesome. I even like the dickish not GI Joe, the American Army four-wheel drive vehicles. They look kind of like next gen and smooth and suburban and whatnot. That they're awful, but they serve their purpose, which is cool. Because they're not the hero vehicle. I love the laser fence. I love the fact that there's a Mars armaments box underneath the vehicle. That's a plot point. Like, they're like, Scarlett's like, I found this Mars equipment. So Cobra's in bed with a major arms company. What's that all about? So these are all just little keys. I hate when they open that box and you see those god-awful weapon designs again. I really the fact that these guns are as tall as they are long, it's gross. And they even go so far as to give Scarlett a kind of crossbow-esque gun. It's this rectangle that has
laser.
It has two like crossbow arms coming off the sides.
Yeah,
Yuck.
But
that is
I don't hate it.
It's such a minor nitpick.
Yeah.
Rob, do you have a low point?
For me, I still would prefer that stuff was more focused on like evil technology. But I understand, obviously, I mean, the parallels between Cobra and Umbrella, and how, I mean, when the cartoon was being made, and also these days, the focus often has been more on biological terror rather than has been on technological terror, which, I mean, we get quite a bit of in early GI Joe, and in the 80s and the 90s. And yeah, I mean, they have been shifting more towards biological terror for many, many years in GI Joe. That was starting to come on the rise in the 90s already. I really do wish, like the tech was more interesting as well. I mean, like, the gun designs are just awful. But just like, yeah, I want more technological interest, more than just the biological stuff that's going on. Like these bio vipers, and it's difficult also to have such a powerful enemy that is very very tough to beat. They really are struggling to beat these guys, and I would like to see more Cobra troopers for them to come up against, rather than just this thing constantly and continuously. So I'm hoping it's, this is the setup, and then we don't have to see it in every single episode. Like, oh, it's the Bio Viper again.
Yeah.
Save it for like big stuff. Like I think, yes, the two-part start of the entire series, have it in there, set up that this thing is absolutely, it's not unstoppable, but it's a terror that you won't easily forget about, but don't overuse it.
If I was
But
to rate
overall,
this
I think,
one,
yeah, it's very decent. Yeah. Oh,
rate
what
it,
are you
Rob.
giving it, Stephen?
Well,
Oh,
okay.
what
I'm
is
gonna
Rob
say
giving it?
it's once again like a kind of a middle of the ground episode, so a 3, but it's a better 3
Oh,
for me than the first episode, because this thing
Mm.
does interesting stuff
a
and
better
doesn't
3.
have too many extraneous code names being flung around.
So a better 3 is higher than a 3.5.
Oh,
Is that
sorry.
what you're trying to
Then
say?
this is a 3.75. I really don't want to split hairs. I want to give it the same score as the first, but at the same time say that I
You want
enjoyed
to
it
go a
more than
little
the
bit higher.
first. Yeah, because it had to spend less time on the introductions and more time on like getting the character
meat.
clashes. Yeah, the
Yeah.
meat,
I would
setting
probably
up
agree
the
with that.
Baroness and Mindbender's relationship, and also their relationship with the commander.
And we
Interesting
introduced
stuff.
into the storyline as well, which I think
The
is really
horror
cool.
element. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
good stuff.
it's a good start. It's a strong finish. So yeah, I'd probably give it a higher rating than the first episode too. I'm going to give it a 3. Hell yeah! Slowly
Boy.
inching up. Paul
I'm
actually-
rocking. I want to rock it with a 4 because I
Ooh.
thoroughly enjoyed it. It had a lot of things that I enjoyed. I liked, Stephen mentioned friction between the characters. I enjoyed that because that's writers that are willing to be brave with the characters and interesting. But that friction was on both sides of the coin, which was cool. I enjoyed the sort of tactics and the puzzle solving in the episode, like how they overcame their
How they A-teamed it.
how they A-teamed the shit out of that thing. That was cool.
So
it
yeah,
set
they
up a
used
lot.
insecticide or pesticides
Yeah.
to kind of, I don't know, melt this creature.
Yeah, it caused some kind of biological sort of chemical reaction. Yeah, which I
Ate away at
appreciated.
it.
Yeah, because and that's also very Resident Evil because you get a BOW, the biological weapons, the anti-BOW weapons in Resident Evil, which is the acid and all that stuff. For those of you who have played the Resident Evil games or Biohazard games, yeah, there was just a lot going for it. I mean, I remember when this came out and I saw the second episode, I was like, wow, okay, cool, this is rad. There's some like combat and stuff. I want to see what's coming next. So yeah, 4 out of 5. It's a goodie for me. It's a winner.
Lovely. Shall we flip the script to an episode that aired in 1985? My goodness.
Dun, 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 dun.
Red Rocket's Glare. My. I think I
And
did summarize this one.
I believe you
Unless
did.
you did, Paul.
Oh no, you did. You did. No, you took that assignment.
There's no cynical take on the episode then.
No.
Destro has a base in what looks like an Aztec pyramid. He's using the indigenous people to come. What? To come the comb. Okay, I wrote this later. He's using the indigenous people to comb the jungle for mini football-shaped Cobra branded MacGuffins and paying them in gold to recover them. He uses these to complete the warheads on a new weapon, the Photon Disintegrator. But GI Joe crashes the party and overruns the base. Destro escapes with the warhead. Time passes and we catch up with Recondo and Roadblock heading to Roadblock's aunt and uncle's restaurant, which he's disappointed to learn has been converted to a Red Rockets franchise. They've been harassed by biker gangs that have kept the customers away. Bills are climbing. They are being strong, They're being strong-armed to sell the restaurant to Extensive Enterprises. But Cobra and Extensive Enterprises are behind everything, as the biker gangs are hired mercenaries and the Red Rocket restaurants are actual launch pads for the real rockets containing Destro's photon disintegrator weapon.
What will G.I. Joe
naturally,
do?
there's a massive price to be paid, and if Cobra doesn't get the money by dawn, they'll launch all the rockets. So GI Joe rolls out a massive mobilization and successfully overruns all the sites. Yo Joe. We
Wow.
end with a big cookout at Roadblock's aunt and uncle's place, which has
Hell
now
yeah.
been called the Joe. I don't know something about something Joe's.
Wow,
Like my summary.
This
It fell
episode
apart towards
really
the
left a big impression on you.
Well, I had to watch it 3 times because we've stopped short of reviewing this episode. So some details have been retained, some have rinsed. But yeah, they've ditched the Red Rocket branding, obviously. I love the fact that Roadblock comes in and the animators had a laugh about the fact that the Red Rocket has this like sign that waves, this lifelike character sign. And he kind of is waving back and forth the whole time. And when Roadblock comes into the restaurant, he's also doing that gesture. He's like standing next to the sign, also like waving mechanically. Very funny.
So many cool little nods. So Celia watched this episode with me, and it was great. In fact, she watched both of the GI Joe episodes with me, and I failed to mention earlier that she actually quite enjoyed the Renegades episode, and also this one. But the one thing that she pointed out,
more?
I need to actually ask her. But she pointed out such a cool detail about them wearing. It was 2 of the Joes wearing the same shirt. They were wearing like the same.
What,
like
Recondo and Roadblock?
Yes, yeah. And she made that comment like immediately, and then there's a payoff line in the actual show about that, and I was like so proud of my girlfriend because it was just such a like she could tell that was very out of place for those characters, but that was great, you know. So that there was lots of those like little things in there, and then there's also, and this is also clothing related. And I love this as well, is when they see the punks, they're actually not punks, those are normal kids. You know? Like,
yes. Yeah. Roadblock's going to punch the pimples off them or something, but the aunts and uncle are like, no, those are actual customers.
Yeah.
The guys you need to worry about are the biker dudes with laser guns. So it's like, it's upping the ante. I mean, you've got these guys that look pretty scummy. They're kids with like pink hair and whatnot. In convertibles, but they're not the bad guys. You're expecting them to be the no good, but yeah, GI Joe cartoon bumps that up a notch. And ironically, the mercenary bikers that are hired by Extensive Enterprises aren't the Dreadnoks.
Yeah,
discuss, gentlemen. Why is that?
I suppose it's too much of a connection to Cobra.
Yeah.
Either that, or the episode was developed and written and made at about the same time that the previous episode was. So they actually didn't extensively know about the existence of the Dreadnoks.
The Dreadnoks had made appearances in the mini-series up to that point, like major appearances. The Dreadnoks were established.
But then they obviously did it on purpose then. It's a misdirection. It's the same, I mean, the whole episode is about misdirections. You know, things hiding in plain sight, things not being what they're obviously, not being what you think they are. You know, like they mistake the kids for the hooligans. And if they had used the Dreadnoks, there would have been too much of an obvious connection between Cobra and you know what they're doing there. Because also, I mean, like the entire like that first sequence, the cold start, is like, okay, they beat them, and now they're going to go off and have lunch with his uncle and his aunt. So it's like, okay, they solved that problem, kind of. You know, I mean, yes, Destro got away with that thing, but that doesn't necessarily connect directly to what's about to happen in the rest of the episode.
What is that thing? It's like it's a case of the script not lining up with what we're seeing, because it feels like Destro's getting raw materials from the jungle. Like that's what the script is suggesting to complete his weapon. But when we see the actual item that has been animated, it's a small, like novelty football size, like a gleaming metallic thing that has a Cobra logo stamped on it.
Mhm.
Huh? So
I can-
in a kind of a weather dominator situation, did like the parts get involved in a lab accident and get scattered throughout the jungle? There are many questions at the start of this episode.
Yeah, I think that goes back to the misdirection thing of the episode, and actually, and that's what I think is the shining thing about this whole episode. Because, firstly, how cool is it that this is a cartoon show that's trying to teach kids a really, really good street smart skill? You know, it's not like don't stick your finger in plugs. You know, don't throw a toaster in the bath. You know, it's none of that kind of thing. It's like, you know what? There are con artists out there, and you got to be wise, son. And I love that about this episode. It really is about how a family is being extorted, and I feel like that's
big
such a great,
corporate. Mhm.
yeah. And I think that's such a great message in the show. Like, yeah, this show is great. I mean, they were doing the right cocaine when they made this episode, because I just love that they do that. They're basically showing, hey, listen, this kind of thing happens, and you got to be aware of that. And then also, don't judge, a book by its cover. Don't And that was another thing, like, we so often, even in today's society, see somebody and assume they are this kind of person because of their clothing or their hair or whatever's. And yes, obviously they are trying to wear that identity or project that identity, but often there's a misconception about who those people are. Often the one that's often the case is like heavy hardcore bikers end up doing so much for charity, but yet they're always seen as like a bad bunch. And so I enjoyed that this episode also plays with perception. That, and I don't know about you guys, but I love that poles come out of the side of buildings when Zaymot and Tomax are making theirs.
Zaymot and Tomax are the perfect encapsulation of like the cocaine-fueled. That's another time cocaine has come up in this
80s
conversation,
yuppie.
but 80s yuppie, like corporate overlord, madman. They
Yeah.
are just given to excess, man. They have a private plane that they don't bother landing. They jump out, discarding the door, I might add, just somewhere over Enterprise City. This door is going to land on someone's head. And they vault out of the plane and straight onto the top of their building. They descend the elevator, which I might add has a secret panel which contains their two-tone, like gray slacks, blue jacket suits. Very 80s, my goodness. And they sit at their desks and the phone rings and it's all good news, man. Profits are soaring. They're buying back all their old franchises at a profit. Yeah, man, good times were had by all. And yes, Lady J, she doesn't stand a chance. When she's falling through the air, like those poles deploy from the sides of the building and allow Tomax and Zaymot to kind of trapeze artist their way down to the ground. Brilliant. I have an early memory of this episode. I'm convinced I saw this on like Mnet Open Time. Occasionally, if you didn't have a decoder, I feel like they did this on purpose, but when it went into paid TV, like they'd give you, I think, 2 or 3 hours of what they call open time. You could watch you could watch Mnet without a decoder before it then scrambled for the more high-end stuff, of which, ironically, the GI Joe cartoon was. But I think one day I was watching Mnet unscrambled at an unusual time, and I caught this episode. And the reason I remember that is twofold. The poles coming out of the building is one. I could not have Mandela affected that. I know I saw it somewhere as a child. And two, the cold open sequence, or should I say hot open sequence that involves Blowtorch quite heavily. I remember watching and thinking, hey, I've got that guy. That's Charbroil.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. That's how you use a flamethrower. You use it to burn giant boxes and have them fall on top of your enemy. Amazing. I mean, I love the open to this episode, but it's totally unnecessary to the story. Blowtorch seems to have like a a characterization and a bit of a through line started there that doesn't get picked up on at the end of the episode at all. Like, he's kind of discarded. He's like, oh, I could have had him. I let him go. Oh, he got through my fingers again, Destro. But man, yeah, I wanted to see a bit more Blowtorch. I was like, this is cool. He was channeling some of that Ice Cream Soldier, Flamethrower Commando type specialty, because basically he was the flame guy and he like aced it. He went after Destro solo, man. Everyone else was mopping up outside, but yeah, dude, Blowtorch was the one-man army. Very, very cool.
Yeah,
That was a ramble.
that was great insight, because
But yeah, so you can read it as misdirection, but you can also read it as kind of like they had to fill in time in the episode. It could be that they had a concept for the episode, but they didn't have enough stuff to fill the entire runtime, and so they kind of just slapped on that start sequence. You know,
I'm quite impressed that Destro escapes on a flight pod and lands in this strange like town that Cobra is building. You got a bunch of blue shirts constructing a town, and I'm like, well, what the hell is that? That doesn't get really name checked or any information given on that in the episode. And then later on, when Cobra, as they typically would need to do and demonstrate the power of the photonic disintegrator or whatever the hell the thing's called, they cut to a town that they then vaporize. And then all of a sudden it's this pastoral scene with like a butterfly flapping and green trees and fields and mountains. And I'm like, wow, Cobra built a fake town just so that they could demonstrate this weapon. Oh my goodness. That's very considerate of them.
Can you actually imagine
its destructive power on a real town? They bothered to animate this entire like sequence of them building a fake town. Amazing.
If they had just not spent the money to build the town, they would have had all the money they would have gotten from the demands at the end of the episode. You need to pay us back for that town that we destroyed in order to show you how powerful this thing is.
Yeah, maybe that's how that's supposed to hook up, you know. I've got a theory about that. I mean, like on a more cynical sort of level.
Oh.
Instead of seeing it as the open being the sort of misdirection that we've sort of discussed, it could have also been a case of the weapon that they wanted to have Cobra wield was something of like, you know, devastating. You know, it had like some kind of seriously devastating quality, and it's possible that once it went to the higher ups were like, "Fuck no" and "hell no," you know, change that. And they had already spent money on their budget to get that first portion animated and cleared. So they were like, crap. So they probably try to like make that segue in a weird, you know, and had to rewrite the episode on the fly. The reason I can say this with some form of authority is that that has happened on one of the episodes we've worked on as well. I may have told you guys about the evil yoga episode that has been completely like thrown out.
Yoga
but
is bad.
Yoga is apparently it's the devil, dudes. It's the devil. But
how far did the episode get before you had to?
Oh, thank God. Okay, so luckily it went to final scripting. It went to final scripting and it went into it actually went into layout phase, which means that the pencils for the rough layouts for us to do the painting over had already started. So it was lucky that they managed to stop it before it went further than that. So we could like, you know, pivot. But yeah, that was kind of a thing. And then there was also another. I can't go into too many details, but we basically got a whole bunch of corrections now recently because something as stupid as a time of day had to be changed because they felt that
you just change the values on the background. Like
I wish it was that
sky
simple.
And take it down.
Oh yeah, no, it is that, but that still takes time because then you have to go in and make sure everything matches that color wise. In some cases, that just actually takes longer sometimes. So it was a case of we're shooting this at night. It makes this whole scene seedy, so we had to change it to daytime. So
Oh,
like so that was like a
Interesting.
thing as well. Like the producer, the executive producers came back
Okay,
and
so
were
you're
like,
getting a conspiracy theory on us here. You're like,
yeah. So I think
maybe this is why it feels kind of disconnected. There's not
yeah,
an
I
actual
think
overarching theme here. It's just like they had to pivot to be able to change things.
and
Because
I
of
remember
course. It's
this is the
many
80s.
hands on the wheel when it
Yeah.
comes to producing the cartoon as
yeah,
opposed to the
even
comic
more
book.
so than with comic books. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
comic books,
absolutely.
the writer, artist,
One man,
well,
two
one
men,
man, but I mean, two men, and then
two persons.
depending, the artist can be split into inker, then the colorist, but yeah, then also there's only one person above them, an editor, who kind of like
Exactly.
edits their stuff.
Who has got one person
Oh,
above them who is the brand manager.
yeah, exactly, and
So,
they're kind of all There's less people in the way, or that have to be spoken to.
yeah.
But yeah, Paul,
Shareholders.
Mark's got a question for you. Where can we see this cartoon you're working on? Is it out
Okay,
yet?
so here's the thing. I'm gonna tell
Tell
you guys
us.
I'm gonna tell you some seriously privileged information that I think is
Whoa.
safe.
Oh,
It will be airing. I think there will be some episodes that will air this year. I'm not entirely sure when they will air, but I know that they won't be airing on TV. When that
whoa.
happens, I believe that they might do a small marketing push. Hopefully, they do a sizzle reel or they release a pilot episode, which I can then point people to. But I cannot say when it's coming out. I do actually know when it's coming out, but I can't say when, and I can't say exactly what episode's
What it
coming out.
is.
I can just say that it may, or at least very well should be, partially visible this year. But it's also
Okay.
up to the channel and all that stuff.
The
So
network, the guys who commissioned the show.
yeah, and
NDA
Rob,
baby.
hell yeah, and I
Ooh.
will say this much as well. And Rob,
Mm.
don't share your thoughts vocally.
Okay.
But you might very well see it very soon.
Ooh.
And
South
I won't be the
Africa
one that's
exclusive.
showing it to you. So that might give you some kind of idea of where it might be shown.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when that happens, I'll be sure to take some footage with my phone or something. Anyway, thank you
Wrap
for
up on
asking, Mark.
Red Rocket's
Yeah.
Glare, though. I just want
Yeah.
to bring to everyone's attention how batshit crazy the cartoon can be. My goodness. Okay, aside from Tomax and Zamot's entire performance, the fact that things like the whale can like cruise up a steep
Oh,
hill.
fucking up a steep hill.
Oh, hell yeah.
The fact that Flint and Lady J basically park their dragonfly hovering outside a woman's apartment and they're watching Cobra's ransom demands on the TV from their helicopter. Awesome.
Turn
And
it
then
voyeuristic.
the finale, guys. Roadblock mounts the rocket as it's
Julia's
taking
other
off,
fun moment for this episode.
Dr. Strangelove style. And the twins decide to hitch a ride right behind him. And then to cap all this off, Flint knocks the warhead off, like clean off the rocket by firing a missile at it. Just like, what? For that to have gotten right, like the leaps of logic you have to make. I mean, he's one confident sucker. He was unsure as he was firing it. He was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna work, but he does it anyways. He fires a missile on a Joe and a enormous, like, I don't know, warhead capable of
Blue on blue,
vaporizing a
baby.
city. And then, of course, the remains of the rocket then kind of spiral down into a river, and everyone's
Like,
happy and smiling. They didn't even have Roadblock animated, like kind of emerging from the water. So they had to use... No, I think they did. Anyways, they just cut back to Lady J and Flint in the Sky Strike and like, oh, I can see his smiling face from here. He's fine. Hilarious.
it's definitely a wild ride. The entire
4 out of 5 from me.
Whoa, Steven's
Yeah.
absolutely
Strong,
loving
man.
the old series. That's crazy. Well, I definitely Countdown for Zartan is I think overall a good episode. I think it kind of holds together quite well altogether. But this definitely feels like a proper like cartoon. Like it just has wild shit going on, and you can't get this in the comic books. I don't think you would ever see anything as crazy as what's going on in here. So I'm definitely upping my points for it. I'm giving it 3.5.
Ooh.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, I'm going upwards. This is what the cartoon does. I think this is a good example of what the cartoon can do that the comic books wouldn't do.
Oh, I was gonna say that as well. Yeah.
Oh no, I stole your line. No.
Nah, it's cool. I'm just gonna add to your line, bro. Yeah. Like, sorry, Rob. If is that your final word
That's
on it?
it. That's my final word. I stole your words.
Yeah. So here's the thing: if this was a comic book, it would be as boring as all shit. But it works really well as a cartoon episode, with all of its absurdity in check, and I absolutely love it. We'll also give it, but I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5, because I thoroughly enjoy it as well, and I think the ridiculousness only helps to take it higher for me, and gotta love the subtext of don't let people con you, don't fall into these little Ponzi schemes and these little traps that these corporate, shitheads try to get people into. And I love that message. And we should have more cartoons like that. Damn it. You can't get this shit in Thundercats.
Well, we've got under the microscope today, we've got 2 cartoons like 30 years apart, almost, and they both are A-teaming it. It's like a small group of underdog Joes helping out a community in the first, and in this one, it's Roadblock and Recondo helping out their family members against big corporate America that are manipulating scumbags to kind of it's there. The correlation between these 2 episodes and A-Team is very strong. I think we can all agree. But to cap us off, gentlemen, a palate cleanser from all that animated nonsense, chicanery, shenanigans. Let's talk about the Trojan Gambit. I'm going to make the executive decision and say we're going to do 298 and 297 next podcast because of we screwed up. Paul and I read the wrong issue. Rob read the right issue.
Our bad. Not Rob's bad. Rob good.
Let's talk about issue 3 of GI Joe. I about issue 2, I said it was a bottle episode. I think I used the wrong term because issue 2 takes place over hundreds of miles of frozen wasteland. It even goes international because we start off in domestic US.
The globe-trotting episode issue.
Yes, but it has a small focus in terms of its team.
The action.
Issue 3 truly is a bottle episode. We are seeing the events of the issue pretty much exclusively, except for the beginning, play out inside the pit, and I freaking love it. 5 out of 5. Sorry, did I tip my hand already?
Yeah, you went that fast. I didn't even get to do my summary.
Okay, then.
Take it away, boy.
We explore the depths of both Cobra and GI Joe's technology as we dive into the dark crevices of the pit.
It's too flowery now.
Yes. Wait. Hold on to your hat while tensions flare up as the GI Joe stop Cobra's dirty secret from rising to the surface and exposing GI Joe for all to see. Issue 3, the Trojan Gambit. Love this episode. This is so great. I know in an earlier episode of our podcast, I may have said that the best stories of GI Joe for me typically tend to start after 10 and closer to 20, but that's because my stupid continuity brain forgot that this was issue 3.
It's because you just like ninjas too much, man. And
I like
the first
ninjas,
10
man.
issues are not ninja heavy. They're really trying to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. here.
This could be... Oh, sorry, Rob.
No, I was going to say the ninja action in this issue takes place off panel. Snake Eyes doesn't get to you don't actually get to see how badass he is.
But you hear about it, and it's blind. So... Also, like...
Cold open.
I love how...
In the aftermath of the battle.
I just love that little line in the bubble at the bottom right, where it talks about what Snake Eyes did, without going into detail about what Snake Eyes did. and that the thing in his boot, it's got to be against the Geneva Convention. The thing in his boot, it's got to be against the Geneva Convention. And it gets you thinking, what the hell did he use? I mean, you know, like, and I love that. That is cool because that's food for thought. You know, that gets the brain turning a bit. And I also, and Steve and Rob, you guys will know this because when we've spoken about GI Joburg episodes and things like that, we have discussed a scenario like this. Maybe not in the pit, but definitely discussed an idea or a concept of the GI Joes being stuck in a facility and needing to escape some kind of machine monster chasing them. And that is because I love Aliens so much, and I really love to inject a lot of that tension and a lot of that type of storytelling from Ridley Scott's masterpiece that is Alien. And this comic book is just pitch perfect for me in that regard. And this panel that Steven is showing right now on the screen, where it shows you the US mail van
section of the pit.
Oh, and it's such eye candy. You've got a vamp there, you've got the Mobat, you've got
who are all these guys? There are little green men illustrated all over all the equipment. And if you are doing a tally at this point, as I was, like in terms of the original 13 Joes, before we even get to this cross section, everyone is accounted for. Roadblock's injured. Stalker and Snake Eyes are doing something else. Scarlet and Hawk are going to the hospital with the injured. I think Snake Eyes and Stalker are taking the Cobra prisoners to the stockade. Zap is at the top of the pit elevator. Clutch and Steeler are driving the Cobra robot remains. Breaker's in the back. So like if you do the tally, you quickly run out of personnel. General Hawk, it's General Flag at this point. He says that there's a backup team that is on their way. Like, I think at this point in Larry's mind, G.I. Joe was a much bigger organization. We saw that readout in issue 1 that had the 14th member, Shooter. I think those kind of personnel images ran a lot further, like beyond the panel of the page. And I think, at least in Larry's mind at this point, G.I. Joe is like a battalion.
Yeah. Like
we're just seeing
the just isn't enough.
We're just seeing the 13 key personnel. Exactly. Yeah. This is something that later got some refinement, but still, by issue 3, G.I. Joe was still a much bigger thing than the original 13.
He was ahead of the game. I mean, he was like, I know they're going to start naming, they're going to make more figures at some point.
Mind Races, you could probably spin that out somehow, like make custom OG Green Team guys and just give them new code names.
Which many have done. Yeah.
Just live in that 1982 world.
I think what's also so cool about the issue is that, I mean, especially that page, is that it's not just explaining, it's not just showing you how cool the pit looks, but it's explaining as it goes down. There's like a reason why.
Oof, it's such good layout
for these layouts. You know, like it's like, so what if they struck us and they try to kill us? And it feeds into what happens later on with the robot. I mean, trying to reveal the location of the base. It's like, it does serve a purpose. This entire full panel is full page spread, essentially.
Yep.
Like,
so gush about the layout there,
like what could possibly happen? This is what could happen.
No, well, that's the thing. I love this layout, Rob. Like, you know, you also, you know, as you're going into it, I am in love with this layout. I also love the cleverness of the storytelling, because the comic book, I mean, and it's great because Steve's panning down on the screen. And for those of you in the YouTube version, you're seeing that. But we go down, and then as we get closer to the end of the issue, we are going up. And that is so clever. I love that.
Wow. And layout-wise, Trimpy is moving the camera physically downwards, but he's also moving us through time by subdividing the layout with panel lines.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing the same US mail truck in each panel, but it is descending with us. And the dialogue is contiguous, like it keeps moving forward. It's clever stuff. I love it so much.
If I had the space, I think that this concept...
Oh, we'd all want to build this.
Exactly. And if you wanted
Imagine
to
parking
really,
all your GI Joe vehicles in a 118 scale pit. It's every GI Joe
But-
collector's desire, but I think a handful of people have actually made a shelf similar
I was
to
going
it.
to
I'm
say,
sure
you
they
could really
have.
extrapolate this idea and just kind of create this great 3D, 2D-esque shelf with all of these details printed or something, or
Oh, I mean,
sort
he's
of
adding
mildly
to details
scratchable.
that they introduced. I mean, the plans for the pit was in issue 1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, sort of
Yeah.
mini poster style.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got an idea of what this place is, and he's designed it to be, very specifically what it is. So yeah, you can
And
definitely
there's
go crazy.
Tony Stark
Beautiful
in the
shelves.
in the foreground. No,
Oh,
Doctor
yes.
Strange. My apologies.
Clutch has got a handsome beard, man. Makes you wish the figure had a bit more 5 o'clock
Clutch.
shadow kind of beard
Yeah.
instead of a full like thick beard. Anyways, I mean the figures are nowhere near model when it comes to these beautiful illustrations.
And the cool
There's
thing
so
about
much
the issue as
character.
well, you get to see the life in between missions, but it also is still the focus of the tension and the story itself. Not only do you get to see the kind of the motions of what they go through at the base in between missions, but this is also the mission at the same time. So you kind of
Also-
he gets to expand on like what do they do between missions, and I think this is the type of issue that Larry I think shines a lot at, is when he gets to reveal to you the details,
Nuances.
the mundanity as it were, and like which I think he finds probably very easy to write. It's kind of like, oh,
Cackle
what do
fruit
they
is
talk
such a
about in
cool word.
between?
Guys,
Um,
how
yeah.
awesome is the flair for the dialogue that is on show here? I mean,
Yeah.
it's possibly my favorite line in all of comics ever. But Clutch says, "Steeler, you want your cackle fruit runny or rubbery?" he's frying up some eggs and he's asking how Steeler wants them done, and it's just like, that's great. And the response isn't simply saying, "Oh, I want it rubbery." He's like, "Somewhere in between. The bacon could stand to being a bit crisper." I mean,
Love that.
come on. It's so natural. I love moments like this. We all really
so
climb into
relatable.
moments like this because
Yeah.
it really gives meat to the bone of our playthings. So nice.
And also, even the next panel where they're like, "Why is Snake Eyes, servicing all of our weapons?" And it's and the response to that is real simple, Stalker. He doesn't want your weapon to jam if you're covering him. I kind of feel like that those bubbles should have been switched around. I feel like Stalker should have been answering that.
Yeah,
That
Stalker should know
well,
Snake Eyes better, but this
based
speaks
off,
to like,
yeah.
we don't have foresight of where these two characters' relationships has been.
Exactly.
I mean, Larry makes no secret of the fact that his entire continuity is an ongoing retcon. Like he doesn't have the answers pre-planned, so like
The line was
the
given to
cement is a
whoever.
bit wet. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's a bit shifting.
It wasn't established. The history wasn't established at all here. So it's literally
But
like
the conversation.
Brilliant. I love the fact that like Snake Eyes, I mean, he's widely regarded as the most heroic Joe. He's the sort of the Uber Joe, but here it's kind of a selfish reason. He's not cleaning his friends' weapons for their benefit. He's cleaning them so that when you are covering him, it doesn't jam. So it's kind of a cynical note from old. Is that Flash? Yeah, Flash is in the armory with him.
That, and also, I mean, Snake Eyes always has to be a well-tuned weapon for everybody else, because I mean, he's the he's the MacGuffin, he's the.
I don't think we need a blow by blow. Basically, the robot reanimates itself, and then it's this monster of the week, desperate fight against this mechanical beast, but various tiers of it. Like they defeat the main body of it very creatively because they can't get their heavy weapons. I found that an interesting point. Like they get up to the heavy equipment level, but all the ammunition is 6 levels down, which I suppose is a security thing. I'm not a military man, and I suppose keeping your guns and your ammunition separate is clever, but at the same time very cumbersome. So you have to march all the kind of tank rounds up 6 levels just to load up your Mobat. yeah, it seems like that's a hell of a logistical nightmare. And then
I,
unload unused rounds each time.
I
But
imagine a
anyways, like
quartermaster sorts that out first and then takes the
yeah,
rounds up.
all
Yeah.
those extra green shirts that GI Joe seems to have. At least this issue seems to hint at. But yeah, the main body of this mechanical beast is defeated. Then the head crawls off to try and get to the surface. Then that gets defeated. Then these mini little spider bugs, 12 of them, get sort of dispersed. And G.I. Joe is literally on a bug hunt through air vents and corridors and walls and ceilings. I mean, the whole thrust of this is Cobra wants to learn the location of the pit to mount an attack. And in order to get that, this robot needs to get to like broadcast depth. It needs to get to the surface so it can send a signal. It's great stuff, nail-biting stuff, a race to the finish line, and the finish line being Scarlet and Hawk, who are on the surface, find the last bug, or Scarlet does. She sees it crawling through the grate and just nonchalantly steps on it.
Completely by accident. It's great how they're constantly trying to. I mean, they don't know what's going on, so they only have their impression of oh, there's noises, there's the smell of there's these weird smells and acoustical phenomena occurring, and they're trying to explain it away so that people kind of ignore like the fact that the pit is down there.
Because Scarlet and Hawk are attending some kind of event at the top structure for the chaplain assistants, and they're in their dress greens, and they're oblivious, but they're like, I mean, the line at the end is the clincher. Like Hawk says, Scarlet, I may have been pushing the Joes a bit too hard lately. I think I'll recommend them for a little extra leave time. To which Scarlet says, good idea, Hawk. Sounds like they're going buggy down there. She could never have known, but we as the reader do. And yeah,
absolutely
fun times.
And how cool is this? I mean, obviously at this point, they haven't seen a lot of designs yet for Cobra vehicles and other stuff that the Cobra would have. So without knowing, they kind of it's very like GI Joe has very hard edge technology, and they've contrasted the Cobra stuff to be very like organic looking. Very kind of like rounded. I mean, the robot is very like rounded. It's not so blocky. And then they also introduced like an original design for a helicopter for Cobra as well. This very like insectoid, or like actually literally it's a Cobra head. Now that I'm seeing it again,
with the Cobra's hood kind of splayed out.
Yeah,
it's a very wide helicopter.
So without that kind of like seeing what other stuff Cobra would have, they are kind of establishing at least their own visual cues or signature for Cobra versus GI Joe's technology. And Stephen, if you are watching the YouTube video, it's featuring probably my favorite panel of the entire issue, which is where the robot kind of like leaps out of the water as they're kind of like looking for where did it go? It kind of just disappeared. It went into the pool. Dag! It went into the pool. And to put the fire out. Dag!
If I may explain the sort of mechanical design a little bit, Trimpy came up into comics around about the time when everyone was being told to draw like Kirby, like Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
So the influence is enormous.
Oh, absolutely.
In terms of these giant, heavy, very bombastic sci-fi designs that actually kind of hark back to the 1950s. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like if you know the Eternals from Marvel, which was created by Jack Kirby, he created the Celestials, which was I mean, we saw one or two of them in the Eternals movie, but this definitely to me has very like celestial vibes in the design. And also like earlier when they were like analyzing the robot itself as well, like that entire scene felt very Kirby-esque, with this giant like scanner machine that's kind of like hovering over the robot itself.
Don't they call them Kirby Crackles? Sort of electrical Kirby Crackle. There you go.
But very much like there's no rhyme or reason for any of the buttons or anything, the designs on this giant machine that he's using. But yes, the entire panel just feels very Kirby-esque. The design of the technology that they're using.
Guys,
overall, it's a fantastic issue.
I think this sets the tone for GI Joe being not only a like a property of the 80s, but then even retro 480s. Like it is a throwback to the 1950s sci-fi. It's just like enormous technical chunk for chunk's sake. These huge blocky devices, very much like a Fantastic Four book. I say 1950s, and I suppose it's more the 1960s in that regard. But
70s even. But
definitely
more psychedelic.
retro, even for 1982. Love it.
I do
5
feel
out of
like
5. Did I say that already? I did.
You said it already. I'm there with you as well. I'm 5 out of 5. But I don't think that this was an intentional thought line or that was done when this book was written. I think it's very much a subconscious through line, which hopefully, if I highlight it now, you guys might find it very obvious. Maybe you've come up to it in your own way. But I feel like concepts of subterfuge and interference run throughout the whole book. There's the interference, the stopping of the radar signal of the machine itself, and then there's the interference that Hawk and Scarlet have to run upstairs to stop people from worrying about a threat from below. Even though they're actually not aware of the threat, they just running interference because they have their own secrets. And so there's this whole concept of secrecy and the need for interference and clandestine, sort of movements.
Yeah,
and
not
I
just
like
from their
that.
side, not just from their side, but from Cobra's side as well.
Exactly.
It's like you won. You think you've won. You've attacked this base. You've taken it over, and now you're taking this machine back into your base to investigate it because you think it's switched off. It's harmless, but little does GI Joe know that actually Commander has planned for this. There was a purpose behind the entire operation, and he's still shown to be an exceptionally capable enemy at this point.
Which is great character building and world building as well,
So yes, lots of deception, lots of layers. Yeah, I think this is definitely. I mean, I don't want to say 5 out of 5. I mean, it feels like a 5 out of 5. I think I really enjoyed this issue immensely. And there's this cool, funny little moments of also how they differentiate how they get out of the rooms. I think it's Stephen showing now. Steeler's just like, you've never lifted a gearbox from a back end of a truck, have you, or something?
Bogey wheel from a tank. Yeah, look, the two Joe teams of 3 are separated from each other, and the team that kind of breaks out of the room that they're locked in first is the one that brute forces it. Steel is able to open the blast doors that the robot has shut very cleverly. It's part of its planning. Part of its programming to deny access to any personnel while it gets its job done. Steel is able to break them out earlier than Flash is, because Flash's tactic is to burn through the door with the laser, but on a low intensity beam so it doesn't eat up the oxygen. I love the problem solving. It's so clever that we are being educated on how practically people would find their way out of these traps. But I do have perhaps a factual quibble with Steeler's approach. Now, it makes him out to be, at least in terms of the OG-13, the strong man of the group. He's the tanker. He's got rippling biceps and pecs and a massive V-cut back, like Arnold Schwarzenegger would be proud. And he says that the counterweight that keeps the blast door closed is 200 pounds. Does anyone know what that is in kilograms? I do. It's 90.
A lot.
90 kgs. So he's been required to like squat thrust 90. I put it to you, gentlemen, that I'd be very surprised if any member of the GI Joe team could not squat press 90 kilograms. I put it to you, gentlemen, that I'd be very surprised if a member of the GI Joburg podcast couldn't squat thrust 90 kilograms.
Yeah, well, I can vouch for that. I can. So.
I mean, maybe it's the angle that's awkward. Rob, how much do you weigh, pal? Oh, actually, let me not ask that question. But you weigh more than 90. Like the legs in your The legs. The muscles in
legs
your
in your
legs are
muscles.
enormously strong. They're perhaps stronger than
4 times than your
actually
arm.
realize.
Mm.
Yeah.
But maybe
On
it's got more
average.
to do with grip strength because it is an
Well,
awkward
grip
lift.
strength. It could also be that it wasn't. It sounded like a good number to Larry. Could that also be a thing?
I also appreciate that Larry, being a Renaissance man, perhaps never spent hours mindlessly at the gym throwing pieces of steel around. Or maybe he did.
Men were
Like,
just men back then, you know. You
yeah,
didn't
they
go to
didn't
the
sweat
gym
the
so
numbers.
much. Or it could just be once again he was waiting for someone to nitpick that number. It's probably a
Some
letter
gym
led
bunny.
issue.
It delights me that Dadbot over here is still a gym bunny, at least in his mind.
Well, you can
Guys,
shrug that. You can definitely shrug that.
I need to, I'm afraid, move the agenda on simply because I'm taking Elliot to his first casting today.
Oh my
Ooh.
goodness.
Hey?
Okay. Stephen,
Little
this
child
is
star in the
exciting
making.
news.
We'll see.
This
We'll
is
see what
absolutely
happens.
amazing. Well, I'm gonna say I'm
Put them
glad
to
that we're
work
moving
young
on.
is all I'm going to say, guys.
Absolutely, got to start earning their keep, you know, and paying for their own college.
Exactly.
yes.
Smart.
It's all going to go into a fund, of course. I'm using air quotes.
Obviously,
Going to
absolutely.
go back to the child eventually.
The Facebook Marketplace fund.
Hey,
You know,
I
where you
always
steal toys from other kids for your kid. Makes
I've
perfect
always
sense.
I'm a strong believer in when your kids get to that age where they have to pay rent, that you put all of that rent money into an investment account or whatever, and when they do move out, you know, you tell them about
Surprise them.
that.
Yeah, you're like, whoa.
And it's quite cool because I know one person who's actually done that, and it was so great to hear that somebody had actually done that for their
Well,
kid,
before we
and it
move
allowed
on,
them to move to Cape Town. So
I think
Yeah.
clean sweep. I am gonna give it a 5. I think it's a fun.
Oh, it's a
issue.
5.
Like, if you
Yeah.
cannot lose. So this is the issue to beat. I mean, we've read 3 issues so far. Well, 3, 4, 5 issues in total of the 300 issues. Yeah, I think this is the issue to beat. It just feels. It's that kind of story that we love, where it's like a type of special mission story where it's self-contained, but it also does tell you a lot about the characters themselves, and on both sides, and it's engaging and interesting. And I think this is the type of story that Larry is strong at, and that I've always enjoyed from him, is these self-contained issues where these are the characters you love, and they're just doing something cool and awesome. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Thank you to the Berg Force members in attendance, and thank you to the Berg Force supporters on Patreon. There they all are.
Beautiful people.
If you'd like to join the GI Joburg Patreon, it is www.patreon.com/GI Joburg. Too easy.
Whoa.
We also still sell shirts. Believe it. Believe it. We got merch on the Teespring
gorgeous
store.
designs.
Just look for GI Joburg, and you can have these very unique, one-of-a-kind Joburg shirts and hoodies and whatnot. Haven't pushed that on the show in a long time.
Absolutely
But they're
not.
cool, man. They're quality. If I do
yeah,
say so myself, and I do.
Well.
And
Je ne
I'm
sais
out.
quoi.
Time to fight the traffic, the morning grind, and get into
You
town
got
and
this.
put my son to work.
Your boy.
Paul's found us
Yes.
an image of I think this is the Treasury edition. What artwork is this?
This is the it
digest.
reprints it. Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
reprints it with edits and new coloring. But they also, I just love the painting because it's like such a great painting. And yeah, and I don't have anything solid right now, but I'm sure they did like one of those choose your adventure books based on this as well. If memory
Not
serves.
based on, but I don't know. They probably repurposed that artwork because it is gorgeous. It is basically
gorgeous.
the theme of the Milgram cover from issue 3, but then kind of made into a painting. And I think the perspective has been adjusted to be perhaps less dramatic, but a lot prettier.
But dramatic for a paintedly approach, yeah.
Less rough. Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that has been a thrilling episode, and
absolutely.
it was. I'm so glad we could pull apart the covers of some pull apart the cover of one of the best GI Joe books, and also just really get into some awesome parts of some of the awesome animation stuff, which you guys know is one of my favorite aspects of this hobby.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
hobby,
We'll catch you in
lifestyle.
2 weeks. Yo,
Yeah.
Joburg.
Absolutely. This is crazy, guys. Yeah, and I'm glad we're ending now too. Not that I like ending, but yeah, my power's going out in 5 minutes. So
Oh,
Oh
crap!
my
Yeah, that's
goodness.
right.
still
Mine's coming
being
back on in
beset
5
by
minutes.
load shedding. Absolutely insane. Stephen, all the best to Elliot. I hope he cracks
you.
this. Remember, tell him he doesn't have to be nervous. He's just be
He
himself.
doesn't even know what nervous is. Hasn't been invented for him.
Exactly. So tell him not to be nervous.
Well, I'll be sure to tell you all about it on the next episode.
I'm so
Later.
excited.
GI Joburg.
Cheers, bird.